My grandma and her friends solved a robbery and a missing persons case from 1943 through ghost hunting. My grandmother Marilyn is 68 years old and recently retired. I had imagined that she would do the typical things in retirement, like gardening, book clubs, breakfasts with friends, maybe take up knitting again. So when she invited me to come over and join her for a meeting with her new club, I was expecting something pretty tame. Instead, I found her standing in the living room wearing a black utility vest with more pockets than anyone could need, the pockets holding her phone, a small flashlight, some sort of meter device, some bent metal rods, and other things I couldn't identify. Beside her stood her two best friends, one of them with a headlamp strapped to her head. "Laura, see these?" Grandma asked, holding up a little plastic ball flashing with LED lights inside. "Cat balls." "But you don't have a cat," I said. "Spirits like them," she explained. "They're easy to activate, good for getting answers from ghosts. We've founded a paranormal investigation group. We're calling ourselves the Silver Specter Society," she said proudly. I had come over expecting maybe Scrabble or Mahjong, and I instead was looking at a cross between Ghostbusters and the Golden Girls. "Here, come into our office," Grandma motioned me forward. We went into the den, which she had transformed into some sort of paranormal command center. There was a local map tacked to the wall, a whiteboard with active cases written on it and the word library underneath. And on the desk there was a Ouija board, something that looked like a handheld radio, and a small voice recorder. Grandma's friend Joan looked as excited as a toddler full of pixie sticks. "So you want to hunt ghosts," I said, taking it all in. "No," Grandma corrected. "We want to talk to ghosts." She spoke with what seemed to me like an outrageous amount of confidence. Joan nodded vigorously. "They have stories to tell." Margaret, my grandma's other friend, was dressed sharply in business casual clothing, and just had the air of a very no-nonsense person. She just wasn't the sort I would have predicted would go into ghost hunting, but she was just as enthusiastic as the others. "We've all been learning about how to do it on YouTube," she said. Their first case was the town library. Most towns have historical buildings that are old, charming, and possibly full of asbestos. Ours was rumored to be haunted by a librarian who went missing in 1943. The rumor had survived through gossip, but I considered it just an urban legend. Nonetheless, on the evening they were slated to do their ghost hunting, I was glad to be invited to tag along. I was finding this whole thing pretty amusing. Grandma marched in like she owned the place about 5 minutes past closing time. The head librarian just waved them in. She was a believer herself and had actually put up extra cameras in the library to catch orbs and shadow figures. Grandma had shown me the videos on the library website. Margaret unpacked the equipment. EMF detector, check. Spirit box, check. Dowsing rods, check. Cat balls, check. Grandma held the EMF detector and switched it on. I watched as absolutely none of the lights blinked. "Currently no interference," Grandma announced. "Good start." It occurred to me that retirement had not slowed her down. It had apparently removed the brakes. They wandered between the shelves. Joan said, "If there are any spirits here, please let us know. We mean no harm." The spirit box crackled to life, scanning radio frequencies in sharp bursts of static. "Lo," it sputtered. Grandma stiffened. "Did you hear that? It said Mare, like Marilyn." "Or maybe Margaret," I said, not sure what we had really heard. "It is addressing us," Margaret said. The next syllable was repeated twice. Hair. We all waited in silence. "Old," came through the static. And then a very clear word. "Help." The three of them froze, eyes wide like kids seeing Santa, except Santa was a potential ghost of a missing librarian. The EMF detector spiked up through green, yellow, then orange. That was when the cat ball they'd placed on the floor lit up. No one was touching it, no one was even near it. Joan murmured, "Oh my goodness, we are doing so well." I half whispered, "Are we sure we want to be doing well?" But Grandma was radiant. "We hear you. We're listening." I thought it would end there. A spooky moment, an interesting story to tell at Thanksgiving. But the grandmothers were on a mission, and after the few moments of apparent success at the library that night, they were even more enthusiastic. They began going to any building in town over 60 years old. The old blacksmith, which was now a hardware store, the old and now empty brick fire station, even the town hall. I joined them when I could, still skeptical, and telling myself that I was only there because I enjoyed spending time with my grandmother and seeing her have so much fun. No matter where they went, the same name would come through, in pieces or as a whole word: Harold. One evening in Grandma's den, Ghost Hunting HQ, Joan played back a recording of the latest spirit box session. Static, crackle, voices shifting in and out, and then, clear enough to feel like someone was in the room. Kidnapped. The room went very still. "Grandma," I said slowly, "that sounds like the same voice as before, the one that says Harold." Grandma nodded. "A robbery happened the same week he went missing, you know. The old bank was looted." "That case is 80 years old," Joan said. "Well, we're retired," Margaret said, adjusting her glasses. "We have time." They became detectives in cardigans. They visited the town records office. They interviewed elderly residents with the gentleness of friends and the persistence of journalists. Grandma took notes in a notebook that she guarded with her life. It had become more than just a hobby. It had become more like a full-time job, and they were deeply invested. They uncovered details I had never heard before. The librarian was indeed named Harold. They confirmed that by looking through the old newspapers still held at the library. Another man, Edward Baker, had been suspected in the robbery and interviewed by police, but there was never enough evidence to take him to trial. One elderly witness claimed that Harold had been seen just outside the bank that same evening. No one ever had confirmed that Harold had actually been kidnapped, because it was possible that for reasons unknown he had just up and left town of his own volition. It was a story that had gotten dusty with time, but the Silver Specter Society was on the case, and I can't lie, I was just as invested. The breakthrough happened at the town hall, and I was with them that night. It was late. The building was closed, but Margaret had once worked there and still had legal access, depending on how generously you defined the word legal. The EMF detector lit up like crazy near a door in the back of the building. "What's in that room?" Joan asked. "No one ever used that room in the 30 years that I worked here," Margaret replied, "so I couldn't tell you." The cat ball rolled across the floor, then stopped, then lit up in bright colors. I didn't find it as exciting as they did. I was pretty terrified, to be honest. I was clinging to my skepticism like a security blanket, but the evidence was right in front of my eyes. Joan whispered, "Spirits often interact with—" The spirit box cut her off. "Trapped." The word came through, as clear as day. Grandma closed her eyes. "Harold, sweetheart, make a noise. Tell us where to go." There was a quiet knock that made me jump. This thing, person, spirit, whatever it was, seemed to be interacting and giving us intelligent replies. The Silver Specter Society followed the knocks, and I tentatively followed behind them. In a dusty old staircase at the back of the building there was a portrait hanging, and that portrait twisted ever so slightly to the side right before our eyes. Grandma fearlessly took the painting down, and on the hook, tied with a very old-looking string, was a small rusty key. The police were confused. One officer stared at the three of them, half bewildered and half amused. "So you're saying," he repeated slowly, "a ghost told you where to find this key?" Grandma crossed her arms. "A missing person told us. Do not diminish him." "We're witnesses," Margaret chimed in. The officer rubbed his temple. "We can't use spirit box recordings as evidence." "No one is asking you to," Grandma retorted. "Just look into Harold the librarian and the bank robbery case in 1943. This key, I think it belongs to a safety deposit box. Just follow the clue." And surprisingly, they did. It was a key to a safety deposit box. The box had been registered to Harold Mallory, and when the police went into the old bank, that wall of safety deposit boxes still stood strong. When the box was opened under official supervision, they found newspaper clippings about the robbery, banknotes, and a miniature leather-bound journal written in beautiful tiny cursive. On the back of the front cover was Harold's signature. The journal told the story. Edward had robbed the vault, Harold had found out. He had written down what he saw and locked it in his safety deposit box. He had written that he feared for his life. That night the Silver Specter Society held a spirit box and EVP session. The same friendly man's voice came through. Truth. Seen. Thank you. Where is your body, Harold? Grandma asked. I am free, the voice said back. News spread fast. My grandma and her friends became minor celebrities in our little town. People started calling them for help with things like contacting their late mom, or strange sounds coming from the basement. They always showed up. They always listened. I watched them work sometimes. As a former skeptic, and I have to admit, now a believer, I've been made an honorary member of the society, even though I'm much too young to have silver hair. I'm really proud of my grandma and her friends. One evening, I was sitting with Grandma on her porch, and she had the EMF detector in her lap. Grandma, why ghosts? I asked. She thought a moment. People think being old means we're finished and that our stories are told, but there are so many things left to say, so many voices that never were heard. I think I just want to listen. The porch light flickered. Grandma smiled. See, someone agrees. The Silver Specter Society is still active. I go with them whenever I can on their investigations, but I did decline the matching jackets with Silver Specter Society on the back, which they now proudly wear. If you ever visit our town and notice 3 grandmothers walking together carrying mysterious gadgets and a Tupperware container of homemade lemon squares, do not be alarmed. They are just helping someone tell their story. And if a little rainbow-lit cat ball suddenly blinks to life beside you, say hello. Someone might just be saying it back. If you enjoyed this original story and you'd like to hear the next installment of the Silver Specter Society series, please subscribe and share our videos to help us get to 100 subscribers when we plan to release the sequel. This has been Tales by Rachel, where we breathe life into every story.